Greetings, friends! Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, here for a brief intro before being joined by tonight's very special guest, Alice Collins. So, please stay with me for 1 sec. You're going to want to hear this. As always, guys, if you're here joining us today, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoy spending time with the show. If in that vein, we'd like to ask a favor. If you would be so kind, please take a second and leave us a rating and review wherever you find the podcast, especially if that happens to be Apple Podcast app. That helps shows like us out enormously, and we appreciate it. We've seen them flowing in, and thank you from our Black Phillip hearts to everyone who's been doing that. In the same vein, you can find us on all the social media sites that you're on. Give us a follow, share us with your friends in your own timelines, feeds, things like that. Help your movie-loving friends find us. That also is a great way to help the show out, and we appreciate that. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, with your ideas for movies you'd like to see covered, new, old themes, double features, guest hosts, anything like that. As you know, guys, every December, we stuff your stockings. That is a month of all listener selection choices. So get in now, get in early. We try to get as many as we can, but we can't get to them all. So best choices win. So that's a great reason to email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. You can also see our faces as well as hear our voices on our YouTube channel, Nerd Alchemist. Please subscribe. Some really cool stuff hopefully coming in the future, guys. We've been working hard. So yeah, head on over there and help us out with that as well. All right, enough begging and pleading. I know what you guys are here for. As we are in October, a horror movie every single day of the month, a dark journey into the abyss of the horror genre. One horror movie every single day for all 31 days of October. All right, guys, we're in it now. This is our cool little stretch here. We got some guest hosts. So as I mentioned before, tonight we are joined to talk about a film called Silent Hill with new friend of the show, Alice Collins. I actually found Alice online. I had been seeing some of her work on Twitter, so I reached out and asked if she would be kind enough to come join us. She brought Silent Hill, which is a movie that I remembered actually I have a personal story I'll share in the episode, but I remembered this movie very differently as a less than kind of video game film, and it is anything but. And the thing I love about the conversation I had with Alice tonight is it's really cool to see someone who falls into a fandom that is so wide and deep, right? So not only does Alice love the film, but that film plays with and expands her love for the video games and vice versa, and the music. Her deep passion and knowledge about Silent Hill was just very inspiring and uplifting, man. And in a year where we're always looking for things to be excited about, listening to Alice talk about how much Silent Hill meant to her warmed my heart. Not only that, Alice herself is just very kind, has a grace about her when she speaks, right? Very intelligent. You can just tell she was always a step ahead of me. You know, intelligence is not my game. More loud and obnoxious is my thing. So I was stoked to have Alice along to help elevate the show a little bit for a nice change. She was absolutely wonderful. I adored my time with her. She was everything I hope she would be and more. Just very, very kind, right? Like a glowing person, right? All of our guests this month have been great. We've been very lucky. Alice is a columnist at Bloody Disgusting, a contributor at Film and Fishnets. If Online UK, I believe, is another site. She tells us at the end she's working on composing a score for a film. She will be in Shudder's new queer horror documentary that'll be coming out as one of their guest voices, their expert voices, I'm assuming. So Alice has a lot of really cool stuff going on, including her own podcast, Alley After Dark. All of this will be in the show notes and details, so you guys can do yourselves a favor, as I have done, and go find Alice's mini works in many locations. I'll link to as much as I can. Do yourself a favor and spend some time with Alice like we were lucky enough to. She will not disappoint you. Without any more nonsense from me, enjoy the show. All right, guys, welcome to the show. Joining me tonight, special guest host here in our October super marathon of horror movies, Alice Collins. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah,
Especially
of course.
when we're going to be talking about one of my favorite flicks.
Yeah, see, you're one of the people I'm like, this is why I don't quit Twitter, because I occasionally meet really cool, decent people. so I'm very excited to finally talk to you on the show. You actually came up with a suggestion that I did not see coming, right? So I asked if you wanted to do a horror movie, and you selected Silent Hill. And I remembered Silent Hill, I think I had only seen it on DVD, right? So I remembered it as a lesser Resident Evil. I was like, all right, weird choice. But when I watched it, my ample amounts of hair almost blew off. This movie kicks so many more asses than I remembered. Would you like to take a second and talk through why Silent Hill and why is it still stuck with you for as long as it has?
Well, why Silent Hill? So I am old enough to have had, the original game when it first came out.
Yep.
Got it from a friend. They beat it. They were like, it's okay. I like Resident Evil better. And then I got to playing it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is better. There's so much more going on here. It's
so much more going on. You're right.
Yeah. It also, it doesn't go over the point where you have too much ammunition where it just turns into an action game. It just sort of stays with that same type of horror and dread compared to other mainstays of, the survival horror genre. The only thing I could even compare it, even closely to would be, Fatal Frame, because you've only got a camera and, the ghosts come at you. You just take a picture of them, But because that one keeps the terror at a good, even pace throughout.
Well, when you
the
can't
entire
just shoot
thing.
something with a machine gun, it's a bit scarier, right?
For sure.
The only thing I could do is pull focus to defeat this monster. So I would ask you, right? So I think you, like me, we grew up in one of the best eras for video games. We were getting all the cool new stuff. Games were expanding and becoming more storytelling exercises. And so then Hollywood came knocking, as they often do, right, with the best things. They're like, we'll come in here and fuck your shit up. I would say that the video game to movie genre has not been filled with gems, perchance.
No.
So when you saw this one, what was it like to see? Because I would say, off the top, I'm one of those weird people. I actually really like the Super Mario Brothers movie just because it's...
Oh, I love it.
It's just a baffling array of decisions that is so much more fun than it should have been, right? So,
oh, definitely.
Right. So, okay.
The
So,
fungus.
yeah. So we're in the same headspace, right? So, but I was thinking, I was like, this might be my favorite video game movie. I mean, I'm still fresh off of it, so it's really, my heart is still warmed from having watched this movie. Where do you rank this amongst video games? And what did it feel like to see a game that you would love that much? I would argue done justice. This was a really good adaptation of the game, I would say.
Yeah. So going into this in 2006, I was able to catch first showing midnight.
Nice.
And that was a weird night too. Oh, actually, I gotta ask you a question. Do you mind any drug references or anything?
How dare you, ma'am? No. No, that's really kind of you to ask, because most people see me in the Skype window and they're like, this guy wants my drug story. I just get pegged all the time. But yeah, no, feel free. This is the internet. Okay. We're wide open.
All right, cool. So the opening night of Silent Hill, I had bought my first half-o weed.
Nice.
I sparked up in the parking lot. I went in. I'm like, I am so ready for this. I'd been following it on the internet. I knew what was coming. I love director Christoph Gans. The music was all from the game, from Akira Yamaoka, and also uncredited is Jeff Dana, because there was some weird stipulation in the contract that they had to have either a Canadian or American working on it, so he ended up remixing a bunch of the original music under the purview of the original composer. So I'm going in there, I'm all excited, and I'm just like, wow, the effects are just gorgeous, even to this day. Like some of the CG's a little bit dated, but like there's so much more practical effects, and they didn't
Yeah.
do the whole thing prequel thing where they had all the practical effects and then just slathered CGI over it.
Yeah.
So I was very happy with the result, and I was freaking out, and
So this was
it
your
was
first
like,
time getting high with Silent Hill?
yeah.
Oh my God, what a choice.
I mean, I knew what I was getting into. Horror movies have always been a thing for me, so I was like, I'll be okay. And I was okay.
You're like, I'm super badass.
Later in the night. It's later in the night, because my friend and his family had owned a cabin in northern Minnesota.
Right.
And I was in Minnesota at the time, because that's where I grew up. So he decided not to come see Silent Hill with me, but like, once the movie was over, he wanted me to come over to his house, wake him up, and then we would go. So on the way up, I'm freaking out because like every shadow, I'm like, oh shit, it's Pyramid Head. They're gonna get me. Like I was telling him about the movie. He was just digging it the whole way up, just like freaking me out. It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, okay, so if you don't mind telling a drug story, I might tell a romance story, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Not in graphic detail, but I think the reason I had forced this into the deepest, darkest parts of my memory, I lost a girlfriend over Silent Hill. So I had seen it in the theaters, I believe, like everyone else. And then this was back when Netflix was delivering the 3 DVDs at a time. I had Silent Hill, and I was like, fuck, I've had this for like a month. I need to get the next DVD. Right? You start feeling guilty. You're like, I've got to watch this.
Yep.
So this girl I was dating at the time came over to my apartment, and she's like, hey, we should, start hooking up. And I was like, sweet. And I had just watched Silent Hill, like just fucking finished the movie, right? And I was like playing Guitar Hero, like super cool caricature of a college boy at that time, right? And so, I got ready, and I was like, all right, romance Griffey time, snap it on. And I don't know why this happened to this day. Because here in the Midwest, right, we have those giant storm sirens.
Oh yeah, the storm
where
sirens.
Every now and again you'll just hear, but it was a beautiful sunny night, right? Like a perfect summer day. So we are in the throes of passion, right? Beginning. And all of a sudden, the sirens start. And I just go, what the fuck? And I jump up. Also, I was not fully sober. But I jump up and I was like, oh my God. I'm like looking out all the windows and I was like, look for ash, look for fire things. And I'm like screaming. And she's like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, you don't understand. Because there was no storm. So I was just like, what the fuck? And this was before everyone had Google and smartphones. So I'm terrified. So then I'm so scared. She's just like, this is fucking ridiculous. Are we going to do this or what? And I was like, no, I can't. I'm too traumatized. So I literally just had to curl up in a ball and drink a beer and watch like a happy movie because I was so fucking scared. I didn't find out until the next day. I had to like research it on the internet to find out they just test storm sirens.
In the middle of the night?
Yeah, it was like fucking 11 o'clock or midnight. I was like, what the fuck? And so it scared me so bad. My little self retreated. Right? There was no more amour. She had seen me exposed as not manly enough for her, I guess. So her entire image of me shattered, like the world of Silent Hill, right? Like the image of me turned
sort of melting away.
Yeah, and so, she just told all her friends, she's like, yeah, that guy is fucking weird. And I got dumped. It worked out in the end. We're still kind of friends. We're like internet friends. We still follow each other. But yeah, because I just remember being like, fuck Silent Hill. Fuck this movie, because that storm siren. Because I try to tell them, like, there are certain things in movies that scar you, right? Whether it's the scariest part or not. Mm-hmm. It's like when I saw The Ring the first time, right?
The horse.
Well, I fell asleep watching a VHS, right? And this was back when it would go to static, right? I had like a VHS TV combo in my room.
Yep.
And I woke up and there was static playing, and the shadows in my closet looked just enough like Samara. That was, and so sometimes it just happens. But in that moment, right, just having watched Silent Hill, I was so scared that even the lust of a teenage or college guy or whatever could not save me. It scared the actual fuck out of me. Like very few movies have, right? And I think one of the things I latched onto, right, because during this October, we've been doing a bunch of horror movies. One of the things I found that's a really cool kind of subgenre that I've been digging a lot lately, I love the idea that this movie presents that directly where we're standing right now, right? There is possibly a parallel universe right here filled with all of these fucking whores. And it is but one concussion away from becoming our reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You wouldn't know. Some creature could just pass through you, and maybe that's why you shivered a second ago, you know?
Yeah. Well, just think about how many times in a day something happens. You're like, what the? Ooh, wow, weird. Deja vu, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie just says, because it plays a lot on, this whole movie is a kind of who are you movie, right? Like, you know, the girl being adopted, obviously, and her hidden past, and the mom's trying to figure out what her purpose is and all this. So I like the idea about people not knowing themselves enough, and then that extrapolates out into what the fuck is this whole world is a false reality. Because that was something I was going to ask you. This movie essentially sets up that, because that opening scene is parenting nightmare 101, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, when that kid is just standing on the edge of the cliff. Yeah. Well, I love that, right? I love every horror movie. We call them dope tropes, right? Things that always pop up. Where it's like, the kid is drawing evil shit, and you're like, something might be wrong. No shit. She's drawing burning corpses, right? Like, go to a doctor or something. But the idea that this mom is just, what I like about this movie, too, is she's one of the rare moms, right? A lot of these movies are, we'll take her to an overpriced psychiatrist. She'll tell us nothing's wrong. The kid keeps getting worse. She's just like, fuck that. We're going now.
Yeah, I really liked that too. It's just like she was no bullshit. She's ready to go for her kid. And she's just like, all right, you know what? We've been having issues for such a long time. Last ditch effort. Let's go. Yeah. And, you know, by that point, like, they took Silent Hill off the map. So you didn't know how to get there. Right. And, just because of the fire. Actually, let's back up a little bit. Yeah. With the town of Silent Hill, the movie version is very different from the game version, with the coal fire burning underneath, and it's based on a true story. There's a town in Centralia, Pennsylvania, and since the 60s, there has been a coal fire burning under that town, and it's still burning to this day. There's enough coal. Yeah, there's enough coal reserves under there for it to continue burning for a few, like 300 more years.
Good Lord.
And you can find like video and pictures online of people going to check it out. Like their people will walk and their shoes will have melted to the pavement.
Yeah, or like, I'm out. I'm out as soon as my shoes start melting. I'm like, good luck. I'll Google Earth this.
There's still people living there. There's like a handful of people that still live there. Like one family experienced...
Like live in the town that was left after this... Jesus Christ.
They don't have a zip code anymore. They can't get their mail in town. I think it's down to like somewhere between 3 and 5 people overall who refuse to leave. And like I know that there was like an incident in the past where a family was just sitting watching TV and a sinkhole of fire opened up in their living room.
What the fuck? I will say, though, I kind of dig that. That's about the most American story I've ever heard. It's my freedom. I'm not leaving my burning sinkhole house. Right? That's like they're just down to like the front porch and they're like, this is our home now. This is what we fight for. That's insane. But see, okay, now let me ask you this. I found the town in this film really strange, right? Because it's played like you were, the city you were just talking about, right? You kind of imagine you're like small, rustic, folksy town, right? Mm-hmm. This town doesn't feel like that at all, right? Like that, the hotel threw me for a loop because I was like, that's a big fancy gathering place, right?
Yeah, so they used the coal burning aspect to inform upon like the art direction a bit. You know, that's why you got like the fire and like the flaking and the coals. But like in the game, Silent Hill is actually a tourist town. Like people have happy memories there, which is part of the plot of the second game. Like the main character in the second game is brought to Silent Hill because he gets a letter from his dead wife saying to meet her there, and it turns bad for him.
Yeah, I would not answer that letter.
The way Silent Hill seems to work is it takes a person's innermost fears, anxieties, guilt, all these emotions and manifests them into these creatures. I know a lot of criticisms thrown at the Silent Hill movie are some of the creatures that are in the movie aren't actually supposed to be there because they're manifestations of a different character. Like Pyramid Head, for instance, is from the second game. And that particular character, well, big spoiler alert, James, you find out, has killed his wife because she was
Oh,
suffering from
shit.
cancer and he couldn't take it anymore. So he smothered her with a pillow and he couldn't remember that. So the Pyramid Head creature is a manifestation of his guilt and his inner mind feeling that he deserves to be punished.
Whoa,
So,
shit, that's trippy, man.
yeah,
But see,
it
this
gets
this is
really
what
in there.
baffles me because it's one of those things. I get it because we all have our fandoms and whatnot. But you're like, this is a different take on this, right? In your idea, one of the things I liked about the movie, I liked that some of the creatures are informed by what has happened in this town, right? Uh,
Oh,
like
yeah, like
most
the babies
notably,
in the beginning, like
dude,
the charred children,
the
that is
chart.
from Alessa's, like when she was taken by the cult and burned, that's what she did to those children,
Yeah,
all her classmates.
no, but that is beyond fucking horrifying. I like that because that scene also has the guy who's in the gas mask who's just like
Yep.
gutted and is still awake, and you're like, what is happening? Because we just went
Yep.
from like rich ladies like, I'll outrun the cops because I can't get in trouble. And then
Yep.
next thing you know, you're like, what is happening to this lady? It's just like completely gone bonkers, right? But the
Yep.
janitor scene is the one that I was like, oh fuck yeah, like that scene.
Yeah. So
Because
dark.
oh my god, but right, the monster, the barbed wire, the getting the clue out of the mouth, it comes out, and this is what I loved, right? This is kind of the image that I took from this viewing that I'll remember is that the monster didn't run out as kind of a predatory thing, right? It almost crawled out as a wretch that's like, oh, the pain and agony. And when he touches the wall, that red fungus seems to come from him, right? It's almost as if his life force, right? The blood and viscera that makes him up becomes part of this, haunted nightmare world, right? It's actually building the walls. And he lets
Yeah.
out this horrible scream, and you're like, oh my God, this poor janitor. He got captured. And then like 30 minutes later, like, don't feel so bad for the janitor, right? You're like,
Yep.
oh my God. So then what you find out is this has become, because the weird thing is this movie is almost everyone gets trapped in Alessa's aunt's fantasy world, right? Like this is almost a fantasy playground for her aunt, which was one of the other really weird things that I had forgotten about this movie.
Yeah, the way like it came about, like the way that, like the text of the film is more like Alessa, after she was burned in the hospital, split herself into the dark half and
Right.
the light half, right? And then the light half is put at the orphanage in Brahms.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dark half is what's taken over Silent Hill. But I always have more read it as there was sort of a demon passing by that, sensed and felt Alessa's pain and want for revenge and her inability to because she is just stuck in bed.
Yeah.
And they make that sort of pact, like when they touch hands.
Love that fucking scene, yeah.
Yeah, you just get to see like the entire cult just going crazy. Like I don't know if they completely intended to have sequels to it because like the like Revelation like rewrites retcons almost the majority of the rules.
Right.
I always read it as, this demon comes by and then gives there's like a pact that's made that is allowing her to split off. Because there's like magic going on in this town. Was Anna talking about the first witch burning and how they recognized a lot of this, the girl that got her skin ripped off.
Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot that too.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah, this movie goes for it with the violence.
Yes, it does. They do not hold back. So like Anna's talking about like the first witch burning is they're trying to find, the room where, they took Alessa and it happened in like the late 1960s, early 1970s. But at that point it had been going on for like 30 years of this town just completely overrun by this demon that is trying to get revenge for Alessa by taking out the cult. And the cult's like, they've learned a lot, they're wearing the gas masks. They've got, certain like groups of people going out and bringing canaries, which I think is really cool imagery because like the canary in the coal mine and the coal mine's on fire, except in this instance, it's when the world changes over into like a purgatory of some sort.
Yeah, that was really fascinating, right? Because one of the things I'm with you on the Alessa and the demon pack moment was really fascinating to me. And I would be lying if I said her splitting herself into the good and bad wasn't very strange to me. I still don't understand the dynamics of that, I guess. But one of the things I somewhat like about it, it almost made the demon's plan more nefarious to me, right? Because I believe what the movie shows us is that Demon Alessa takes baby Alessa and drops her on that orphanage. So this is almost, I have my playthings now, but I want to make sure more fucking people are going to come, right?
Yeah.
At the start of the movie, when she's on that cliff, she sees, because it is weird, there is this mix of like, is it hellfire or coal miner fire or hotel room fire, right? But take all that aside. It's just a scary reminder that right beneath the surface of whatever we think is happening, there's this never-ending pit of fire and misery, man. Yep. And so showing good Alessa that, right? That is a way calling her back. They know that baby will return at some point, it felt like.
Yeah, like that's a bit in the text of the like original games. One of the multiple endings of the original game is getting that child out of there. Like there's almost like there is a weird like dichotomy inside that demon that is not fully evil but not fully good either, and that there's just part of it that wants some kind of good to survive, like so it can bring back more and become more powerful. Like in later games, like you'll see Silent Hill spreads to nearby towns.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of this movie, that seems to be what is happening, right?
Yeah, my interpretation of that was something went very, very wrong with the ritual at the end when, because when Alessa was able to merge with Rose and sort of use her as like a meat sack just to get inside the temple or the church or whatever they were calling it, there is this she knows that Rose is going to be taken out by Christabella, which big props to Alice Krieg there. Fantastic, great in Ghost Story. Borg Queen, awesome. She's a great villain.
She really was.
Yeah, and she just she knew that Rose was going to get stabbed and like bleeds all over the seal. I think it's the seal of Valtiel that I can't remember off the top of my head. That's like really deep into the game lore.
I was just like, weirder cross, got it.
Yeah.
They're like creepy Amish.
Yeah. For the purposes of the movie, bleeds all over this thing and lets Alessa actually have her revenge against the people who wronged her.
Well, see, that scene is all kinds of wild, right? Because she has to take like 6 smacks to get there. And what I found really fascinating about that moment is, one, they didn't lock the door. Like, you've been working the whole time for this. Like, maybe lock the door, right? So there is this inevitable, like, could they have even locked the door, right? Is this part of the nature of this alternate reality, right? But also, they could have just taken her down right when she got there. They were afraid. Like, only 2 or 3 people step up and smack her, right? Yeah. There is a part of them that knows this whole thing is fucking nonsense.
Yeah,
and they kind of want to hear what
down that elevator shaft.
They fucking saw. Yeah. And so that part, the only part about the ending that made me mad is I was like, get back in time to save the police officer. Like, Jesus Christ. Right? Yeah, I was like, no.
Sybil gets, she gets screwed.
That was a brutal, because I was like, God damn, I thought she already died. You killed her twice. But
yeah.
But that's what I like, though, right? So here she is. She's confronting the church cult leader. And she is espousing her beliefs on what all this is, right? Because that's the thing. The cult leader tells her, when you go down there, it takes the form of an innocent. Don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're conditioned to believe from watching it, right? We're all put in her position and we're like, these people burned a fucking child, right? Because they don't know who the dad is. We assume the dad is the detective later who burned his hands, right? That felt
Yeah.
more of an act of, oh my God, I got to do something more than like a police officer, right?
Yeah.
So we are trained as an audience to believe that these are evil fucking cult members. The question that kept lingering on my mind is, was she right? She told them, don't fucking believe this thing. Don't let it in. Our faith is all that guards us, right?
Yeah.
And she gets her faith tested and fucking fails, right? Because she stabs her, right?
Yeah.
And the blood comes out. Well, then the wound heals. This is no longer the woman that entered Silent Hill. She has made her own pact with the devil, right? And when the devil comes up, you're like, oh my God, did she fuck up? And the ending to me is telling me, is that cult maybe right? Like that was the baffling thing. So I was like, she made the deal with the devil, and her daughter never escaped Silent Hill, right? Silent Hill goes with them.
Yeah. So my reading on that ending has changed a lot over the years.
Right.
More recently, it's been like watching that scene closely. You see, Rose holding Cheryl and just saying, baby, close your eyes, don't look at anything. Yes. And then when she opens her eyes, who but Alessa's looking right at Cheryl. And all of a sudden, that's when everything clicks back. You're back out of the hell dimension to sort of like that limbo area. And it's like I've thought that maybe that's when they reconnected, and the reason they couldn't get back is because the two parts of Alessa have now merged. And
merging. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've merged, and Alessa wants a mom so bad she won't let go of Rose. And so no matter where Rose goes, she doesn't know that this merging has happened. So she's got the child with her, and wherever the child goes is where the fog and, creatures are going to go.
Yeah, and it's almost as if the devil, Alessa, provides something very important for each of them, right? Because it gives her the child back. Because the movie kind of dances around this idea of, this seemingly was a rich couple that had this kind of big, empty, vapid, hollow rich person house, right?
Yep.
And they brought this child in for something to love, and she, is really trying hard to bond with this child, and this is my child. She keeps mentioning it, right? Almost taking offense that people wouldn't say that, right? So there is this fear, it seems like, in her, like, what am I if I'm not this girl's mother? Kind of reinforced by the strange decision to not bring your husband along on this journey, period.
Yeah, well, I think like there was, this is where that dissonance comes in from the writing. When the original script was turned in, there were no male characters in the film. It was just Rose, Dahlia, Christabella, Sybil, Cheryl. And it wasn't until they turned it in that the studio was like, we need some men in this film. No one's going to go see women. So they just... That
is the most early 2000 notes I could ever imagine.
Right? So they had to really, the film had already been greenlit. So they had to really get in there. So, they had to put, Chris, Sean Bean, and... it's Gucci in there as the detective. And it always makes me giggle a little bit with his name now, Gucci.
Yeah, right. Well, that was one of the weirdest castings, because I was like, this guy's definitely covering up crimes in Silent Hill. And then at the end, they're like, oh, no, he was just like a good guy who lost his daughter. I was like, what? Because the whole movie, every scene he plays, and I think he's a really good actor, but I was like, maybe he's just not like the good cop actor. Because every scene he plays is so fucking ominous and threatening that I'm like, for sure he has a part in whatever terrible things are happening.
Yeah, because in the games, the one that rescues Alessa from burning actually has a cameo in the second film. He's a truck driver at the end named Travis Grady. And he's the one who rescues Alessa from the burning building in the game, and not this cop. Like, this cop is an entirely new character. But he's so ominous, and you just like there's so much second guessing, and I sometimes wonder if it's just sort of the writers just being a little annoyed at the studio, so they're like, fine, we're just gonna screw around with this a little bit. I
Perhaps.
don't know.
Because if I'm being honest, that's what the scene in the hotel room, the original burning, the
Hmm.
whole flashback when she says, I believe it's your reward is the truth, right?
Yeah,
That felt very much like the studio's like, dude, you guys got to answer some questions. Like, you
yeah,
know, like, put that shit in there. So, because I mean, but then it's like that segment opened all these other questions. I was like, oh fuck, like the mom ran to get him. He burned his hands trying to save her. Like that detective's the dad. What does that mean? And
yeah.
then it's like, so wait, the coal mine fire was started by a hotel room fire.
Yes, it was.
Okay,
Yeah, in the movie it
yeah,
was.
and then you're like, there's this weird 1920s. It looks like a prohibition hotel. Why does this town of witch hunting cultists have that? So then I
Yeah,
started thinking, I was like,
so
oh, fuck, this is like a honeypot. Like they're drawing in all the fucking sinners from all over, and they've probably been burning every motherfucker in this building.
yes, that's actually been my reading of it. Is Silent Hill wants the bad people. It
Oh,
wants
yeah.
the sinners to come to it because that's how it feeds. That's how it stays in the consciousness. It's sort of like Freddy in a way, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
As long as you remember who Freddy Krueger is, he's still got the power. And as long as you remember what happened in Silent Hill, that demon still got the power. Um, and the origin of the town is very different. Like I said, they retconned it in the second movie a lot, like which is actually more in line with the games, where the original well, not the original, the settlers of Silent Hill just murdered and genocided a lot of native people,
Right.
and a lot of the like demons and stuff is just the revenge of people being displaced
Yeah.
from land which was theirs,
It's the
and
least
that
fun Settlers of Catan expansion. The Settlers of Silent Hill. It's just like, well, we'll burn another tribe down so I can get some sheep. This game
right,
sucks. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, first movie, Cold Fire. Second movie, it's yeah, because like it looked like they just had like a gigantic Weber grill that they put a less on.
It did. It looked like one of those. Put your brats in here.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that. Oh, you just
it's
tickled my
just
Midwestern dad funny bone. That was. That is exactly something I would see at Menards. Like, I'd seen on TV. Buy this weenie flipper. Or kill children with it. It's fine. Oh, man. You know what, though? That's funny because, like, I don't even care about the issues. Because this is one of the things. I think I'm always fascinated by movies that have inherent story armor, right? And
yeah,
this movie has it. We don't know what is reality. We never know what is real once. This movie has 4 realities, right? So it has the real world we start in, the Silent Hill of now with the cop and the husband, which we think is real, but he can still smell his wife's
could be,
perfume.
yeah,
We don't know, right? That could be a secondary protective Silent Hill. We see the dusty Silent Hill, or ashy, I guess, as it were. And then
yeah,
we see the hellscape, right? And so for
yeah,
me, that's not a coal fire. It's not a hotel. This is hellfire, right? This city
yeah.
has been drawn down. One of the things I was absolutely fascinated by, what better metaphor for fanatical religious zealots, right? Than they are literally creating a pocket hell on earth. Because that's what you
Yeah.
keep coming back to is you're like, they probably built that fucking Sin hotel so
Hmm.
they could fucking capture, because that all religious people, I think, at their very core, right? A lot of them are like, I just want to help and be good to people. Well, you can do that shit on your own time, right? There's a lot of ways to get that done, right? It's
And
like,
you got the shoot-offs, the zealots.
yeah, because like we went through a phase when we were a kid. My mom was like, we got to try this church. We got to try. I'm like, it's all the same shit. Like, you just want to know that like you're hanging out with the right people on Sunday, so they'll tell you, they go to our church. We're good people. I was like, that's what we're doing here. Let's be real with ourselves, right? And you're just like, I don't want to miss cartoons anymore. But but there is this inherent. It's kind of the built-in flaw of organized religions to me, which is all they preach is love and acceptance, but all the books teach you is what to hate. right? Where to judge and where to draw the fucking lines. And I was like, I've never been able to get over that hypocrisy in religions, right? And it becomes this, if I think they say this sometimes with, violence, if like the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem's a nail, right? Yes. And that's what religion is. What is it a shield from? The sinful world that's all around us. So Alessa's demon, when they make the deal, right? That is probably the most human and relatable moment in the movie, right? Is this child... It's the fucking best, right? Like, I'd forgotten that emotional core. It actually made me choke up. She's just a kid who got bullied. A lot of us did, right? She's doing her own thing, and through no fault of her own, for just existing, people are fucking traumatizing her. Then there's the fucking janitor. That's a whole other level of horribleness, right?
Yeah.
And her own aunt comes in, and her reaction is not, oh my God, like I should use my teachings and knowledge of religion to help her and counsel her and make her better. No, we must destroy her and cleanse her.
Mom lets her go.
Yeah, and her mom lets her go. So this is what I'm saying, right? This becomes I believe that all people that are way too religious, this is what they hope for. They're hoping that there's hellfire, that all of us are burning in, and they can look out of their house and be like, see, I fucking told you. So in a way, the fanatical belief is the fucking coal. That's the coal that keeps this fucking pocket universe burning.
Yeah. If you look at the first movie, you see there's nobody there at all except for like a handful of people. But if you watch the second movie, the second Heather, Cheryl, after this movie is able to be sent back through to our reality by her mom, played again by Rhoda Mitchell, which was cool to see her again in Revelation. And Sean Bean takes a larger role in the second film, and he's playing Harry, who is the protagonist of the first game. And it turns out like they've, in the first movie, it's Chris and Cheryl. They've been moving around ever since this happened, ever since, they were reunited, and they've been changing names because the cult has been going after them. And when you get your first instance of seeing Silent Hill, all of a sudden there's people all up in the windows watching them, like watching Heather walk down like the main drag here in Silent Hill. And it's such it really, like what you were just talking about, makes that, like really ring true, is like they want that hell to happen. They know who she is when she comes back, and they're like, okay, let's all, witness this God's rebirth,
Yeah. Well, that's the strange thing, right? When they're taking them to the elevator, like, you go down and see if you can defeat the darkness. They're playing it as like, we're good Christian folk, right? We're going to help you out. You can go down there. You'll probably die. We're warning you. But hey, maybe you'll beat the darkness and fix us all, right? And that's the other thing. We don't know if these people fully believe this is reality or not, right? Or if they know something is afoot. But the fact that they think this is their normal real world and this is what they wanted, right? Like, it's all very strange. But that's what struck me.
Dissonance within the cult. Like,
oh yeah,
do they want to leave or do they want to stay? Why is Christabella still such power within this? Like, she's a very domineering kind of person, but like, does she want to leave or does she want to, stay and have say in like her own little pocket of hell? This is my
zombie movie theory sometimes, right? Like when I was watching Walking Dead, when that was still a thing I did, it made me really think. We were like, man, you know what? If there's a zombie apocalypse, like, I'm diabetic. I think I'm just going to eat Twinkies until I explode. Like, what are you trying to survive for, right? It's like, I wear these same jeans for the 8th day. They're covered in mud and sweat, and they're gross and rock hard. Like, where's your creature comfort? Like, there's no comfort in the, what are you rebuilding? What are you doing? Like, no, this is gross. And this movie is the same. Like, these people are completely fueled by the I'm right. And that in and of itself is one of the 7 deadly sins, which is really fucking strange. Here's something else that kind of leapt out at me that I thought was strange. The fact that the hell can only exist for really brief periods, right? They never really fully explain as why hell comes and goes. That to me felt like a manifestation of the cult leader. This is her fucking fantasy, right? So if you really boil this down, this is the pocket sin universe for her, right? This is her punishment for what she did. And so the hell coming actually feels like something she wants and manifests because, to your point, that's how she still has power, right? We were right. We didn't do anything wrong. walk past the church and you'll get your fucking skin ripped off, right?
Yeah, and
She's
also
almost calling that evil.
Yeah, to add to that, the sirens are coming from the church as well.
Yes, I had totally forgotten that. That was wild.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. How do they know when it's changing? Because she's fucking manifesting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like you can only like you're around this entire town, and it's a tourist town, so you've got like the guys in the gas masks with the canaries. They can only run so fast back to the church, you know. So how are they going to be able to accurately predict it every time?
Yeah, well, Rhoda Mitchell was at the school. We saw her look at like 18 bus stops, right, in montage, and these guys just show up like, "What's up? We got our canary." Maybe that's what I mean. They're in their pocket universe. Maybe they're still teleporting around. But it really struck me the first time we saw Pyramid Head and the like little Freddy Krueger looking bugs. They had almost a face. Yeah. Because I was like, so Pyramid Head does all this work. He chops with his amazing, awesome sword through the door. Yeah. There's a hole in the door. The bugs are pouring in. He's got him. He's got the sheriff and he's got the mom. And then he's called away. And I was like, fuck, even in hell, a demon can't get any satisfaction. Like, he did all that work, and he didn't get a skin rip or do anything. He's just called back. Yeah,
that's a really good point that I hadn't thought of in a while, is he is definitely called back. Like, there's something that stops him.
Yeah.
And maybe it is Christabella. Maybe it's Alessa realizing that it's not Sybil, it's not Rose that is the actual threat.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's the moment that Alessa realizes that they're there to help her.
Oh, she realizes she can weaponize them. That could be.
It's like I've always that's always been one scene where I'm just like I'm trying to like pin it down, like where is that? Because like the movie, it doesn't lay out the facts for you real easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lore you gotta go into. Like even though I had played all the games up to the point of the movie's release, I was still confused by the ending. So it took me a few viewings and some more replays of the games for me to be like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. I see what they were going for, but they were don't telling so hard that it just went right over that top of my head.
And honestly, I feel like that's a good thing, right? I think a lot of video games fall into the trap of we have to lay out every fucking thing that was in the video game and it's like they're different mediums. We don't have 120 hours with a movie like we do with some video games nowadays, what they did really well is they captured the tone. And for me, I like the idea of this we're all just so close to making a deal with that demon, right? Like, I think we all, when we see Alessa in that moment, and then even the nurse, right? The hideous face nurse, where they're like, she just wanted to help and you hurt someone who was just trying to help you. We all can relate to that so fucking much, right? We've all had that day where you're like, if a demon that looked like me said, hey man, let's ride, you'd be like, fuck all of these people, right? And it's so relatable. And then they really hammer it home. My favorite kind of bit of storytelling in this is, so Christabella finds the locket, right? Mm-hmm. This is one of those moments where you're like, this should be a Eureka lightning strike moment. I have a chance to do better.
Yeah.
Right? I've already destroyed.
Chooses.
Yeah, I destroyed the innocent. I fucking Foreman grilled it, up in the hotel. And now we're all in this fire because of it. She has that moment, right? And her immediate reaction is not, oh my God, God has sent me a chance to do better. I can help her find her daughter and get out of here and atone for my sin. It immediately is like, kill them!
Yeah,
and you're like,
she
fuck!
pulls out the horns, which...
Yeah, oh my God, because she seems like she's somewhat reasonable for a brief second.
Mm-hmm.
And she is literally confronted with the face of her fucking sin, her niece that she burned mercilessly and unfounded reasons why. And she's just doubling down. She gets a chance to redo the most heinous mistake of her life, and she wants to do it again. Yeah. And I think that is the kind of level that this movie operates at that I don't think it gets credit for, is there is so much interesting character decision and pain hidden throughout the film, right? Like you were saying, little things like Dad's not invited on the trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot about that fucking family, right? Like if something was happening with my kids, the thought of, I'll handle this, wife, just don't answer your phone for a week. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy shit. But it's just hidden there for out, right? Even the sheriff is like, yeah, some lunatic threw a kid down the well and I had to hold him. And so now she sees a kid at a gas station in a nice vehicle with what looks like a rich parent, and she's like, I still feel the need to protect that child.
Yeah.
We all have that. We all have these depths.
Yeah, there are so many character actions that really give you a lot of depth to these people on the screen, and that's I consider it like my favorite and most faithful adaptation of a video game. Even though there's some key differences, there's characters missing, but overall the plot beats are like 90% of the way there, and what they added didn't subtract from what was there, because like a lot of video game movies, like most of it actually subtracts from what you got from the game, like with, say, like for example, Doom. The only thing I remember from Doom is the first person sequence, because it was so just surface level, not a whole lot, that I can't even remember characters' names, and even though there's no name for the character in the game, you're still, the side characters are just so forgettable. But with Silent Hill, you've got these great characterizations. You've got rewatching rewards, because you can pick up a lot of stuff upon rewatches, and there's not a whole lot of movies, in my opinion, where you can rewatch it over and over again and still get something new out of it every time, other than it's like a comfort thing.
Right.
You get an actual, you get to hey, there's a layer I didn't see before,
Right.
And it's just over the past, what has it been, 14 years now? Yeah, 14. Still, it still holds a special place.
Yeah, and I think that's what separates all of them, right? So you have your Doom, Resident Evil, which went on to be a very popular series.
I still enjoyed them, but they were just so
but that's what
removed.
I mean. We don't have that moment of an aunt who wants to reburn her daughter, a mom who's like, "What have you become?" Right? When she says that to her daughter who's in the bed with the Hellraiser barbed wire everywhere, I was like, "Oh my god!" It's just there's real fucking emotions happening, right? These characters are going through real things that make, because one of the things too, I was like, wow, this movie's really pretty sparse with the fucking body count. You know what I mean? Up until the sheriff dies, you're like, there's one kill, and then the sheriff is barbecued, because you're like, maybe two. All right, she lives. Nope, she's definitely fucking dead. And you're like, wow, only two. And to your point, you're like, no Sean Bean kill? Like, most shocking addition to a film of all time is Sean Bean to not be killed. I thought he was finally going to cross over and be like, honey, claw, just get caught on the giant blade. He's not even killed. But what it does is it's like sit and stew in despair, and then it goes absolutely apeshit at the end. It's like, we're going to drown you in blood at the end.
They went full Hellraiser at the end there.
Yes.
I loved it. Every single second of that ending, all of the barbed wire, just getting all of these people responsible, getting the sense of justice. I've actually been talking about this a lot lately, like on my own podcast and just with other people, is that as of late, and just even thinking back, there's not a whole lot of sense of justice that you can get from the real world. But when you're watching horror movies, you can get that catharsis. You can get that justice. You can watch Alessa get her revenge that is rightfully hers at that point. Because, violence ain't the answer, but after what they did to her, it's the only answer.
Yeah, well, also the fact that they could have gone back and tried to save the good Alessa, and they still wanted to kill her again. So you're like, I don't, because this movie, it's so much, like you said, it's almost orgasmic, that scene, right? Because you're like, it's horrible what's happening. But you're like, finally, you want to take your shirt off and let the cold air blow. You're like, finally, justice. Because these people are so just devoid of anything that matters. You're like, they've made their decision for so long and so wrong. And there was the scene, one of the things, they still humanize Alessa even in that moment. There's the scene when one of the cultists is coming for the mom and her daughter. And he gets barbed wired, and we look over, and she locks eyes. Alessa in her bed is still looking over and trying to protect them. In her moment, that she has waited so fucking long for. The demon's crawling up. She's raising on barbed wires. Like, this is my holy symphony of revenge.
Ooh, I like that word.
She still takes a second to protect the mother who's being good to her daughter.
Yeah.
Right? Who gave her this. And it is so... Because that's the thing, right? There are a lot of horror movies that have body counts. You're like, I don't think it's a punishable offense to sleep around as a busty young teenage camp counselor, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I don't feel any...
Totally
like,
not.
that's all fun. Like, that's fun when it happens in movies. You're like, oh, they're just dumb teenagers. Let's wax them. But there's not like a real catharsis. This is real deep catharsis in this scene.
Yeah, it's emotional. It's more than just like visceral and just like, yeah, blood, but it's like there's meaning behind it. There's soul.
Yeah. Well, to that point, before we get out of here, I'd like to get your thoughts on the very ending, right? The Silent Hill has now traveled with them to their wealthy, protected enclave house, right? Mm-hmm. Sean Bean sleeping on the world's least comfortable couch.
Yep.
The door, that's some rich people shit, right? You're like, look at this furniture that no one ever fucking uses because you're busy making money. It like drives me nuts in rich people movies. But so he's sitting there and he sees the door open, but no car in the driveway. What do you make of that? Because to me, it was the moment she got stabbed and her body regrows. Now she is of this place, but I couldn't figure out what her sin was. I'm like, so she got a concussion and was led into Silent Hill, right? Somehow they brought in the sheriff or the deputy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is her sin? Why is she stuck in Silent Hill? What is going... was her sin just the pride of, oh, I'll take her there and face down everything that happened on my own? I was trying to figure out why they're stuck. Yeah,
I haven't viewed it as like her sin per se. I mean, she did merge with a demon. Mm-hmm. She did allow this carnage to happen.
Right.
But at the same time, you have this little girl, the rage of this little girl that's been festering for years, decades.
Yeah.
And this little girl just wants her mom, and her mom gave her up. So my reading on it is that she just wanted her mom, because like now that you've got the supposed two Alessas have finally like merged together, she will do anything she can to keep that mom. And then
that's a much sweeter ending, yeah.
Yeah.
Because mine was this, even if you make a devil for what you view as a righteous cause, you have still crossed the line and fucked up, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I like your read better is just like, this family deserves each other, man. And maybe they didn't fucking need Sean Bean. Like, does that house seem any emptier in the ashy world than it is with just him on his uncomfortable ass couch?
It's just as empty and desolate in the real world too.
There's some fucking very heavy meta narratives at the end.
Yeah. So that's how I read it. They changed it up in the sequel. Like there was some way that I want to say that like they had like Rhoda Mitchell come back for like a quick little cameo. And she had somehow separated the Alessas, is my interpretation of that, and then found a doorway to send Cheryl back through. Whoa. But she herself couldn't come through.
Well, that is sinful. I have an adopted child, but I want them to only be what I want them to be. That's a heavy narrative in and of itself.
Yeah.
So in closing, if you had to wrap up, granted, if people listen to this whole show, hopefully we did that. But kind of a final little love letter to Silent Hill. Why is it a movie that sticks with you? Why do you love it so? Why will it hopefully carry with you into the future?
Number one, the atmosphere, the aesthetics of it. Like, you get that, like you said, there's not a big, huge body count in this. You just have this slowly moving, slowly rising dread and terror coming with it. And I'm a huge fan of slow burners.
Oh, yeah.
And this mixed that with one of my favorite games. They kept that game almost beat for beat, at least for a good 90% of the film. It has such an emotional hit to it. And I feel that it has stood the test of time. I know, I think it was Shout Factory that put out a Blu-ray of it recently.
Yeah, right. That's how you know you made it.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely out there as one of the better, in my opinion, the best, you know, comic video game
Oh yeah.
adaptation that there is. I haven't seen anything that's beat it yet.
I was gonna
It's
say my
been
son would fight you and say Sonic, but
oh,
but he's 5.
so good.
It is so good. But that's his movie, right? This is for me, man. This is what I like when I watch watch this movie. Because again, I remembered it as a less than video game movie. When I finished, I was like, this movie's so much fucking better than it has any right to be. It's so fucking good. And like you said, it actually builds a world full of terror. And the two things that I took from it is this dual journey of we are all so close to giving up and being hopeless and making that deal with the devil and destroying the world around us. And also how fucking close, right? How we're in this world that we live in. We have this very little light ahead of us, right? And just outside of that light, there are this fucking infinite abyss of claws and hands wanting to take a piece of us and take advantage of our, sadness and depressions. And that dual mix with just great acting and real stakes, like real emotional stakes, right? It's not the whole world that's on the line, but like I'm so bought into the journey of these characters. I was just like, this movie's so much better than it has any right being. And I think by a landslide, it's my favorite comic or a video game movie. I did the same thing as you. Video game movie. It's hard to remember a time when comic books weren't every movie.
Yeah. I think a lot of that, I would definitely attribute a lot of that to Christoph Gans, the director.
Yes.
He had the visual language down.
He absolutely did.
He had it it was perfectly recreated scenes from the game. It was phenomenal. And I can't give enough praise for this film.
Yeah, it was well worth a girlfriend. I look back on it now and I'm glad that that I had this movie and not that girlfriend. So Alice, before we get out of here, would you like to tell the people where they can find whatever you're working on? You got projects you need to plug? Let's go.
Yeah, sure. I have a podcast that I release bi-weekly called Alley After Dark, and it is on Twitter at Alley After, ALY. And then I am on Twitter as Vamp Alley. And I am currently working on a score for a film called Maniac Nun.
Awesome. What a title.
It's about
I would immediately buy that.
lesbian nuns with katanas fighting drug-dealing Nazis.
Stop. I'll have to take my clothes off. It's too hot.
So
wow, that's a dominant elevator pitch right there.
Yeah.
Vampire, lesbian, nuns, katana.
And I'm also in Shudder's upcoming queer horror documentary.
Are you really? Congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you.
What is the documentary called? Do they have a title yet?
There is no title yet. It is. There's no release date yet.
Okay.
The footage has been shot. I was interviewed back in January of 2020.
Back when the world had not yet caught fire like Silent Hill, yeah.
That's right. So I've seen an early cut of it. It looks great,
Awesome.
and it can only get better. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Fuck yeah. Well, congratulations on all your projects. Everyone check out Alley After Dark, Alice's podcast. I'm sure we'll all watch the Shudder documentary when it comes out. Thank you so much for making time and bringing your expertise on Silent Hill over here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love talking about Silent Hill. I can go on for hours.
Same. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Be sure to stay tuned. Tomorrow, another horror movie. I know, guys, one horror movie every day this month. It's a lot. Thank you for doing that with us. I'm sure we'll be seeing Alice again soon. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.